in previous modules, we've looked at the process of capital budgeting, and we've also looked at a number of different methods of project evaluation. There are some other methods that we haven't touched on in this subject as well. But what we have established is that the net present value method is the most reliable and accurate, and we'll be focusing on that method for the rest of this topic. The way that we will implement the NPV method is to estimate the incremental free cash flows from a project and then calculate the net present value of those cash flows. And if that's a positive number, then we are better off undertaking that decision. I think we're probably fairly familiar with what a cash flow is, but it's very important to focus on the words incremental and free. An incremental cash flow means an amount of money that the firm is better or worse off as a direct result of a particular decision. We need to work out exactly how many dollars a firm will be better off if it goes ahead with a particular project. Any cash flow that does not change as a result of the decision is not relevant to making the decision. The other important word is the word free. Free cash flows mean cash flows without regard to how a project is financed. And I'll come back to this concept shortly. In the introductory topic, one of the things we talked about are the different kinds of decisions undertaken by a financial manager: investment decisions, financing decisions, and the management of cash flow from operating activities. In this topic we are focusing on investment decisions, but it's important to keep in mind the impact that financing decisions have on the investment decisions. The way in which we'll make investment decisions is to calculate the net present value of the incremental free cash flows associated with a particular decision. And if that NPV is greater than 0, then going ahead with that decision will increase the value of the firm. Financing decisions, decisions about how to raise the capital needed for the investment decisions, determine the cost of capital, the amount of money we have to pay to providers of capital for the privilege of using their money. That cost of capital is the discount rate that we will use in calculating the NPV of a project. In this topic we will take that as a given. The important thing for us to remember is that the cost of capital reflects the financing costs. The more it costs to raise capital, the higher the cost of capital, and this will impact upon the NPV. But we don't include financing costs as part of the cash flows from a project. As we mentioned earlier, free cash flows are cash flows that are not connected with the financing of a project. We calculate the NPV of the free cash flows to see whether the project is worth undertaking. The higher the financing costs, the higher the cost of capital, which is reflected in the discount rate used to calculate the NPV. So if we included financing costs as cash flows from the project, we would in effect be counting them twice. Once in the cost of capital, and then again as a cash flow associated with the project.